All right, this week we're going to take a little bit of a break from those geometric basic figures and move on to some other important geometric basics, which are conditional and converse statements. So to kind of introduce you to it, let me first show you this video of something that is aligned with what we're talking about today. So this is what's called the Rube Goldberg contraption. Now, Rube Goldberg was a famous cartoonist in the 1940s. He built contraptions and inventions to do everyday tasks, and they kind of caught on because they're fascinating to watch. So over the years, they've kind of grown and expanded, and a lot of people have built Rube Goldberg-inspired contraptions, which are essentially a action-reaction machine. When something happens, then something happens as a reaction, and it goes from there. So let's just take a quick minute and watch this short video of an example of a action-reaction contraption. All right, so that contraption was intended to, if you saw that there at the end, the hammer smashed into, that is what is an egg, which cracked it and put the egg yolk in the bowl. So again, a contraption that does everyday actions, but in a creative and fun way. They're fascinating to watch. That's kind of what we're talking about in geometry. So we're discussing action-reaction type statements. So even if I take a look at this picture, let's just kind of discuss some of those things that happen in an if-then format. So let me just kind of highlight here. And actually, I'm going to go back to what it looked like in the very beginning. Take a quick picture of it. All right. All right, so looking at this picture, if we were going to just discuss some actions and its reaction, you may say something like if, do you notice I'm going to fill in this blank and say then this happens. So my action is going to come first, then my reaction. So if I hit the first domino, then the ball will roll. If I move down further, if the ball rolls, then it'll slide into the piping and go into the cup. If the ball falls in the cup will fall and the car rolls. So there's a bunch of different statements you could make by looking at this picture. But the idea is that in geometry, these if-then statements are called conditional statements. They're called conditional statements. And again, it depends on what happens as to what reaction happens. So they're called a conditional statement. They are a statement with two kind of parts, right? You've got the if part and you have the then part. So it's a statement that has a hypothesis and it's followed by a conclusion. Again, you have your action followed by your reaction. Another way to define a conditional statement is to say, if this happens, then this will happen. So this is just to kind of help remember how you set it up. The hypothesis always is just the part that follows the if of a conditional statement. So it doesn't include if. If is just kind of a standard part, but it's what comes after that if that is considered the hypothesis. The conclusion is following the word then. So again, it doesn't include the word then, it's everything that happens after. So let's take a look at some examples. Here are just some two traditional examples here at the top. If it rains tomorrow, then I will not be able to walk my dog. And the second one there is if a player misses practice, then he will sit the game. So if we're going to identify the hypothesis and the conclusion of each statement, again, the hypothesis, I'm going to go ahead and identify that by highlighting it yellow. And the conclusion, I'm going to go ahead and identify it as green. So the hypothesis is the part of my sentence that comes after the word if it is set up in the traditional form. So notice how I didn't highlight the word if, just everything after. So if you eat candy all day long, then what's my conclusion? What's going to happen? You will probably get cavities. Looking at another example, if a shape has four sides, then it's an quadrilateral. So again, my hypothesis is the portion that comes after the word if. My conclusion or my action, reaction, is the part that comes after the word then. Last one here, take a minute and look. Hopefully you would have identified 2 lines cross. Then what is my reaction? There's 1 intersection point. So hypothesis, conclusion, those are the 2 parts of a conditional statement. However, sometimes they're not always written in the if-then form. Most of the time they are. Sometimes they're not. So you have to remember kind of that idea that your hypothesis is the action, right? It is what is going on first. And the conclusion is the reaction. So here, let's take a look at the very first one. You will get paid time and a half if you work overtime. Now this one kind of gives you a little bit of a clue. The hypothesis is actually you work overtime. So the thing that happens first, the action, is you're working overtime. What happens as a result of that? What is my reaction? You're going to get paid time and a half. So your sentence is kind of flipped a little bit. Your hypothesis is still following the word if. So there was a short clue in there, but it's come second part. So again, you have to kind of think of action, reaction, and if it's not in that traditional if-then form. Okay, number 2, I will be relaxed when I finish my homework. So think, what is my action? Hopefully you said, I finished my homework. That's where you're going to start. That's what's going to happen first. What's my reaction? I'm going to be relaxed. So this time there was no if, nothing to clue me in, but there was, again, you could identify the hypothesis conclusion by asking yourself those questions. Number 3, I'll be a millionaire when I win the lottery. So again, what's the first thing that has to happen? My action. I win the lottery. What's the reaction? I will be a millionaire. And I hope this comes true, guys. Last one, my neighbor will wash the car if the weather is nice. Kind of a more clue in there. You do see that word if. Should help you narrow it down. First thing that's going to happen, the weather has to be nice. So again, not including that word if. If the weather's nice, what's the reaction? I bet you my neighbor's going to go out and wash the car. So that's how you kind of take a look at it and attack sentence statements, conditional statements that do not have the traditional if-then format. Okay, the other kind of statement that we're going to take a look at are called converse statements. So converse statements are basically the reversal of a conditional statement. So you're going to take the hypothesis and conclusion and switch them. So here's my example for you. If my conditional statement was, if a figure is a triangle, then it has 3 angles. If I was going to write the converse statement, again, I'm switching the order. Now notice my if and my then, that format is still going to stay the same. If something, then something. I'm just switching my parts. So now my converse statement would read, if it has 3 angles, then a figure is a triangle. So you're just switching the parts. Here's another one we can do together. If you are 16 years old, then you can get your driver's license. So again, if I'm identifying parts, here is my hypotenuse, and I'll use the same kind of highlighting I did earlier, making sure not to include the word if. What's going to be my reaction? You can get your driver's license. So that is my hypotenuse, or my conclusion. If I was going to write my converse statement, again, I'm switching those two parts. So this now should be my conclusion, and this should be my hypotenuse. So I would, and I'm just going to copy and paste to minimize my typing. And again, guys, I encourage you to use any shortcuts that you can to make your life a little bit easier. And I'm going to take for my converse statement my hypotenuse, or my hypothesis, sorry, and put it there at the bottom. So if you can't get your driver's license, then you were 16 years old. All right, so your practice activity will be something similar to this. Please refer to this video if you need to, or reach out for help.